All right, guys. I think out of the podcast, I was the only one watching it live, but I know you're both updated. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that as we get this rolling.
My opinion has changed a little bit both ways. At first, it was like, what the hell? Like, Juwan is embarrassing us. It's Greg Gard. Greg Gard is really going to irritate you that much by calling a timeout. Yeah, should he have called the timeout? Probably not. But was it that big of a deal where it's literally going to make you like blow your lid? No. And this is now the second time that this has happened to Juwan, which if this was the first incident, I would be like, oh, who cares? This guy, I would basically turn it all on Greg Gard. What did that guy say? What did he do? He clearly did something that set off Juwan. But the fact that this is now the second coach in 2 years that has basically made Juwan lose it makes me worried, and it's embarrassing, especially when this team just sucks. The team's not very good. It's embarrassing to watch him play on the court. Now I'm embarrassed watching him off the court. It's just not a good look for Juwan. And I know, Matt, I'm sure you probably are feeling that maybe he was enticed in doing what he did. And 100% I agree. I hate Greg Gard now. That's a fact. And that assistant coach, we still haven't had his name leaked out. I probably could look it up on the website and find it. That felt the need to step in and basically be a hero on Wisconsin's side. I'm glad that Juwan just like palmed his head. He completely got bitched when he palmed his head like that. But I don't know. It's just not a good look. I really do think Juwan, sadly, I think he's gone for the rest of the year. The good thing is, if there was a team that I don't want their stank rubbing off on Juwan, it's this team. So if he has to take the rest of the season off, so be it. Bring him back next year. People who are saying that he should be fired, or people who are acting like this is such a freaking big deal, like it's like, yeah, basically a fireable offense. I don't see it. It's not like he threw a punch. Literally palmed the guy's head, got him away after the guy was pushing his own team. So I don't see the huge deal, but I do think that it's worthy of suspension. And I said the suspension should be about 10 games, but there's not 10 games left in the season. So in other words, he's gone for the rest of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, okay. I got to take a deep breath here. Where do I start? So, first of all, so you said, Ted, I wasn't watching. I was at the park with my family. I knew Michigan was playing, but it was a beautiful day. So we were like, let's go to the park. Let's get outside. I was checking the score a few times. I hopped on quick, check the score. I saw they were basically losing the whole time. So I was like, whatever. But then all of a sudden, like my phone, I was like, bzz, 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 in my pocket. I'm like, dude, what's going on? So I open it and I see like Ted, and I see like I have a group thread with, friends, Michigan fans blowing up like crazy. So I'm like, oh, maybe they like buzzer beater, something crazy. So I hopped on first and checked the score. Saw they lost. So I was like, oh, whatever. Ted, and you basically texted like, are you guys watching this? And I was like, oh yeah. I mean, it looks like a typical Michigan. They played like crap. But then I hop on and I see like my friends are sending clips of this fight. And I'm like, I tell my wife, I'm like, what the hell? I got to watch this. And I see it. And it's like, what is happening? Like, this is insane. So then I start reading some texts and stuff. And, I'm very curious to see what Michigan does, because clearly we'll put this out there. Everything we say, whether we think Juwan was enticed, everything you said, Jared, I think everyone agrees that Juwan Howard crossed the line. Whether he was pissed about the timeout, whether Wisconsin assistant coaches were doing what they did, whether Gard grabbed him in the handshake line, Juwan crossed the line. You shouldn't have swung at the assistant coach. That said, I think the Wisconsin coaches are just as much to blame as anyone in provoking Juwan this far, because Juwan, like after the game, he clearly, as you laid out, I think Juwan maybe is a little bit of a sore loser. He doesn't take losing very well. So
no,
because of the timeout, because of whatever happened, he stayed back and didn't initially get in the handshake line. So I think like clearly he was like, I need to cool down. I'm pretty pissed. And then he probably thought, but I need to go through the handshake line. I can't not go through handshake line. And he was trying to just walk past Gard, whether that's adult, whether he's being a sore loser, whatever. Gard literally grabbed him. And if there's one thing you don't want to do when someone's pissed off, especially someone like Juwan Howard, how mad do you get if someone grabs you and tries to reason with you? Listen, this is what I was trying to do. So Gard escalates the situation like crazy. Juwan's telling him, don't effing touch me. Don't effing touch me. Leave me alone. Gard keeps grabbing him, grabs his arm. They get separated. Krabenhoft is the assistant you're talking about. Krabenhoft comes charging in like a madman and is screaming at Juwan. Who knows what he's saying? And if you watch the video, he shoves two Michigan players. two Michigan players who are trying to just like cool it down. He shoves two Michigan players. I'm not saying he like chucked them aside, but he pushes two Michigan players. And then that's when Juwan comes in and takes the swipe at him.
Yep.
If guard doesn't grab Juwan, if Kravenhoff doesn't come in like a madman, like he's the Hulk, like he's a freaking Avenger trying to save the day, I don't think any of this even happens. Again, Juwan crossed the line. He should not have taken that swing. But if we're going to act like it's okay for Wisconsin coaches, one, to grab Juwan in the handshake line, if we're going to act like that's okay, if we're going to act like it's okay for an assistant to come in like a madman, screaming, yapping, going crazy, pushing other Michigan players, if all of that is okay, then we're like setting a bad precedent because I don't know, most people, you kind of live by like the, keep your hands to yourself. And if you don't, there's going to be retaliation. So be ready for it. And should Juwan have swung at him? Probably not. But if the Wisconsin coaches don't provoke the whole situation, I don't think any of this happens. Now, Juwan should get, I kind of agree with you. I think if Michigan wants to send a message and say like, this isn't cool, partly also because there's a little bit of a track record with Juwan, I think suspending him for the rest of the year would send the message and say, hey, like, this is not cool. We're not going to fire you because yes, the Wisconsin coaches did kind of entice you, provoke the situation, but this isn't acceptable. So you're done for the year. See you next season. I almost think like that's enough. I'm curious to see what the Wisconsin coaches get though.
Yeah.
If they don't get anything, I'll be a little pissed about that.
On the one hand, I get what you're saying about the Wisconsin coach and the grab at the sideline, but if I look at it as a non-biased just viewer, and I was watching it 100% live, right? And Wisconsin had the game completely won. It was over. First of all, I didn't quite understand why Michigan was pressing them, but okay, they got the backups in there. They're playing hard. Fine. And they're putting pressure on them. Guard calls timeout because they were not going to get it across the timeline. Bush move, maybe. Okay. Juwan, if you go back to the film and watch him, he took the mask down, completely irritated at guard right there. And right then, you could see the wheel spinning. Juwan was pissed. He'd had enough. And let's face it, Wisconsin's got the reputation of being kind of a dirty team, and I think Juwan hit his limit right there. Now, when the game was over, usually teams concede when they're down to the final 20 seconds and it's a 15-point ball game, right? You back off. The two coaches go shake hands. If Juwan didn't want to have a confrontation, you lead the line, shake hands, walk right on by. But he didn't do that. Like you said, whether it was right or wrong, he went to the back of the line and is trying to compose himself. Well, he needs to grow up because he didn't do a very good job of that. And then to get instigated by guard, yeah. Did he touch him? Oh, yes, he did. And should he have probably been trying to explain himself at that particular moment? No. But Juwan Howard, I'm going to throw every bit of Wisconsin out of this. He's 100% wrong. He should get suspended for the rest of the year. Everybody's talking about, well, that ended up being a head slap. Well, I'll tell you right now, when I was sitting there watching it live at full speed, it looked to me like it was a punch to the face. Now, when they slowed it down, it may not have been technically a punch, but his intent was to hit him in the head. And he should, at the very minimum, be suspended for the rest of this season. And if they fire him, I'm on board with it. I'm okay with it. I don't think they should.
What happened to you?
I'm just saying, I don't think they should. You can't be punching somebody. He had this altercation already with Maryland. He's losing his mind. He's grabbing a live ball on the floor this season. What is wrong with him? He's got issues. And
it's this team, man. This team would make me lose my mind. They aren't very good, and they're maybe the most boring brand of basketball there's ever been trounced onto a Big Ten basketball floor. It's horrible. But I was watching the game, but I only made it about 25 minutes, maybe the first 5 minutes of the second half before I had to shut it off. I literally tweeted out to gouge my eyes out. Now, I didn't want their whole season to come crumbling a few minutes later, but That's what happened. That's where we're at. The thing that Juwan said when he was going through the line was, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
And that would have been classic if he would have just said that, kept walking.
Exactly.
Because here's the funny thing. Wisconsin's basically capped out this year. What's the record? 21-5. Johnny Davis is a good player, but, they're still probably only going to make it maybe Sweet 16 at best.
Classic
so I would
Wisconsin.
still put Michigan. Yeah, I would still you just know that their time is coming to get ran off the floor, probably next year by Michigan. So I just wish he would have contained himself, but I don't know what happened to Ted, what happened to you, man? Did your balls drop off? I'm seeing you retweet right after this, the John Chaney and John Calipari brush up from 1994. That was 10 times worse. I don't even think anyone got any repercussions from that.
Oh, he got a game, but there was no blows. They didn't come to
You're talking
blows.
about how you're basically supporting firing Juwan over this. What? He did nothing. He palmed his head. Give him a slap on the wrist and move on with our lives.
Yeah,
The media is going to blow this way out of proportion. It was a brush up. If anything, the worst thing that happened was the players. Like Diabate, right. That's what I mean. This season is over. Diabate threw a punch. A couple other players threw a punch. They're probably gone for the season as well. So the punishment is enough. You know, give them the season. The rest of the season, you're done. Come back next year. If you do it one more time, you're gone. But to say you're on board with firing him, I don't see it.
Oh, let me be clear. I'm not calling for him to be fired, but if they do fire him, I'm not going to be leading a picket line saying you must bring him back. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's fair. Like I don't think he should be fired either. But I think maybe the track record of some of this stuff happening before, and we all know Michigan thinks they're above anything like this, and they don't want to be the image, all over all the sports shows, all over all the, websites and everything. Michigan basketball coach getting in a fight, throwing a punch. Michigan does not want that. And there's a whole other side too that I think there's probably still a lot of people at Michigan who have bad feelings about the Fab Five. Yeah, a lot of people maybe are past it. They're happy with Juwan, winning the Big Ten championship last year. But there's probably still a lot of people at Michigan who, boosters, alum, whatever, who still don't really like Juwan because of all the Fab Five stuff. So I think, that might come into play too. And just the image of that you're seeing over and over of him taking a swipe at a dude, I think is what is going to stick in people's minds, whether Wisconsin provoked it or not, who knows? And, like Ted, you're saying, and I'm not really disagreeing with anything you're saying, but you're saying like Juwan should be the bigger man and just walk by. Well, maybe Guard should have been the bigger man also. And when he initially grabbed Juwan, clearly seeing how pissed off he was and him saying,
just let him go.
Right. Just let him go.
Yeah.
Just let him go. Why did he keep grabbing him? I mean, like Ed, you've been a parent when a kid is having, I'm not calling Juwan a kid, but when a kid's having a little bit of a meltdown, if you keep trying to reason with them, that thing, it's just going to go up and up and up. And Guard, he's as fired up as Juwan was. He was as fired up too. When he saw 6'9" Juwan staring down at him, maybe he should have been like, cool, let's move on. I'll call you maybe tomorrow. I'll text you, try and explain. But he's just as at fault as Juwan, in my opinion. And then the assistant coaches.
Equally at fault.
Right.
And he should get the same suspension as Juwan.
Probably
that
not
would be
because
equal.
he didn't swing. He didn't.
That would be equal.
I mean, he didn't take a punch, so that's probably what it'll come down to. But the assistant coaches, there's a video. I like some people are really like
dissecting it. Yeah,
what is a Zapruder film, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. They're like breaking this film down frame by frame, and they're seeing like the Wisconsin coaches coming in and pushing Michigan players. There's a second Wisconsin assistant, Chambliss is his last name. He tackled Terrence Williams. Yeah, I don't know if you watched the video after Juwan took the swipe. He was trying to go after Juwan. He tackled Terrence Williams into the bench. And then Terrence Williams gets up and two Wisconsin players come in swinging like madmen. And then that's why Diabate and Terrence Williams started swinging back. So again, I'm not excusing anything that any of the Michigan coaches, players, anything that did. But like Wisconsin's just as much at fault. To me, like, if there's a bar fight, and yes, the first person who takes a swing is going to, probably be the one who gets in the most trouble. But like, if a dude is like egging him on, poking him, talking trash in his ear, and then he swings, that guy who provoked him is just as much at fault to me. If you're going to poke the bear like that, you better be ready to, defend yourself. And if an assistant coach is putting his hands on a coach's players, I don't want my coach to throw a punch, but a coach is going to defend his players.
Yeah, but the punch is what escalated it, though. Don't you agree? I mean, if Howard would have just shoved him away, like Jared said, then walk on by saying, "Hey, I'm going to remember this." If he just shoved him and walked on by, we wouldn't have had everybody else jumping into it. When they see your head coach throwing a haymaker, all bets are off.
Yeah, but it could be, all bets are off when the Wisconsin assistant coach comes in and is yapping in Juwan's face and pushing Michigan players.
He's definitely at fault. Yeah.
He must have. I mean, we all want to know what that guy said. It
Yeah.
probably will come out maybe at some point. I
would
hope.
think.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was something dumb. I mean, what wasn't the whole Turgeon thing? It was. He said something about like the Juwan's Fab 5 days. I thought. Am I remembering that right?
He said something about the
along those lines.
banners, like the banners.
Yeah,
came
like,
down.
dude. I mean, if it like really that sets you off that much, it's 30 years ago. So when Ted was a
Right.
kid that happened.
Right.
It's like what? So if it would be embarrassing if something like that came out. That's what that guy said. But no, the way I look at it is Juwan's in the wrong. Suspend him for a year, like I said right at the very start, and hopefully he comes back and doesn't do this again. But you know what the saddest part about this is? If there was a street fight between those two teams, I think Michigan would have got their ass whooped. I mean, did you watch them play basketball? They're
Yeah, I
so
didn't
not what I
think he was going
expected.
there.
That's
They're
not what I
so
expected you to say.
You think that it would go the opposite way around?
Did you see those haymakers Diabate and Williams were throwing?
Did you watch the game? I mean, Brad Davison's freaking manning these guys out there.
Oh, but you're defending Brad Davison. Okay.
He did crack me up after. Did you guys see what he did after the
Yeah,
fight?
he wanted
Like,
to sing their varsity song.
Come on, let's go sing varsity. Let's go sing varsity. What? Dude, that guy is so annoying, man.
I mean,
If
he is
anyone
like,
should have got a slap from Howard, it should have been that kid. Even though Howard would probably be in jail if that happened.
yeah. Oh, yeah. If he touched a player, this would be a completely different conversation.
Oh yeah.
To my point, the Wisconsin assistant coach touching players, I think, should be a completely different conversation. Do you guys think, Jared, you've been kind of alluding to it. Do you think that Juwan's track record will kind of come into play with this? Like almost like in a sense, this isn't your first strike type of thing. You think like, Michigan athletic department will look at it that way and be like, hey man, like this is becoming kind of a little bit of a trend,
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's strike number 2. And anything like this again, he's probably gone. And if he keeps in, like, I wouldn't really have a problem with it if he does it again, because it's showing that it's a consistent problem. Matt, do you honestly, like, let's say that, let me just do a role playing situation here. If let's say this same thing happened, it was like Michigan State. Michigan beat Michigan State by 15. Like Michigan was getting pressed and they were about to turn it over. So Juwan called a timeout. Do you guys actually think taking a timeout in that situation is like that bad? I mean, I've been in games where I'm getting blown out and it is like maybe the most annoying thing in the world where you have to sit in that blowout for another like 2 minutes before you can get off the court. But to really set them off that much, I don't understand it. Was it that big of a deal?
Not to me. I mean, was the game already over? But like I said, coaching instinct jumps in. You're going to get a 10-second call. He just called timeout, so he didn't get the 10-second call. The timing of it, terrible. Timing of it was terrible. And like I said, there's bad blood anyway. So it just, you know how it is when your temper you just start getting redder and redder. And I think that's what was going on with Juwan.
Yeah. And like, there's all these like unwritten rules with sports. You're not supposed to bunt when a no-hitter is about to go, all these kind of stupid, like unwritten rules. Like even people get pissed if the game is over, like the clock's about to hit 0 and someone does like a fast break dunk, right before. But like to me, I don't mind that. I'm kind of like, well, then if you're mad about it, play defense, don't let them go do a fast break dunk. So that's kind of where like I don't know. I'm not trying to like say Juwan should have been pissed, but like Guard in the press conference, there was still like 4 seconds left in that 10-second call when he said he wanted to call timeout.
Right.
And he was like, I didn't want to put my backups in that situation to get a backcourt violation.
Yeah.
So what, now you're like babying your backups with 4 seconds left? You don't think they can get the ball across half court?
Yeah, that was a stretch.
So and then he takes the shot. He has to slide it in. Maybe Juwan didn't know that rule that when you call a timeout, it resets. So now you're taking a shot there.
Yep.
So
that was a good dig right there. That was a good dig.
I mean, it's a good dig, but I think we all agree that it looked pretty funny.
Yeah.
Juwan towering over him.
Yeah. Do you guys have a problem with Juwan not like apologizing? Basically doubling down on everything that happened during post game.
That's one thing I was going to bring up, and I was going to ask you guys. I don't think we're ever going to see an apology. I think he might say something like, I should have handled myself better, maybe like in that sense. But I think Juwan is who he is. He has said before he grew up on the south side of Chicago, the way that he was raised. You don't like touch me, or I'm gonna like defend myself. Basically, he has said multiple times, and I think he feels like Guard grabbed him. The assistant coaches came in and did what they did, and he may not like apologize for taking a swing. He may say like, I should have handled myself better type of thing. But I doubt he apologizes because I think like that is who he is type of thing. Like he has said before, this is how I was raised. If you're going to test me, I'm going to come back at you type of thing. So like, should he apologize? I don't necessarily think he should apologize because I'm in the camp of guard shouldn't have put his hands on him. And the assistant coach shouldn't have come in and put his hands on the Michigan players. But like, to Ted's point and, kind of what we're saying, should Juwan have like handled it a little better? Sure. Yeah. But as far as apologizing for taking the swing, I don't think Juwan's going to apologize for that.
But that's the part I think he owes an apology is the swing.
Yeah.
Not apologize for the tension and, the temper. And I'm going to remember that. The swing is what he has to apologize to me anyway. Yeah. And I'll tell you one other thing. And this may be just me on my soapbox because when I was young, I had a little bit of a fiery temper. But this whole South Side of Chicago thing is driving me crazy. Yeah, he grew up in a rough part of town, and it was a tough upbringing. But I'll tell you what, he's lived the high life a lot longer than he did as a youngster. He knows what it's like to have a lot of money and to have everything you want. So that whole South Side of Chicago thing, that doesn't buy it to me anymore.
But it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if that's how he was raised, and if you've got a coach challenging you, basically, that South Side of Chicago is going to come out in you. When you were at the restaurant and that old man was talking crap to you in the car, you said you were about to snap, remember?
No, I knew that was going to get brought up too. And the thing is though, I was provoked more than once before I snapped.
Right.
It wasn't just.
And I'll say this: just yesterday we went out to breakfast, and you make a lot more money nowadays than you did when you were a little kid, but you still felt the need to complain about the $1 upcharge on your eggs for getting cheese on them.
Oh no! Listen to this, Matt. Listen to this. We went to a restaurant, and I wasn't upset about it. I was pointing it out to the waitress. My wife ordered a burger, right? And she orders her burger the same way every time: ketchup and onion. There was an 89-cent upcharge for the little sliver of onion on there, and I just. Like, yeah, seriously, wow. 89 cents for a sliver of onion on a burger. Now,
rolls it, man.
Let that go. It was the point, not the 89 cents. I said to the waitress, I was very kind to her too. I said, hey, is this really true? 89 cents for a slice of onion? Yep. Manager said, oh, the supply is really tough, really taking it on the chin. I said, oh, okay. And that was the end of it. So.
South Side of Corona
what did you? But you making that comment was you bitching about it, and if there was like what else you can't really. Like,
I'm gonna stick by it, Jared. When you're older, you point those things out. You don't just let them go. Yeah. I mean, come on, it's not right.
So
it might down the road prevent me from going to that restaurant again. You got to be kidding me.
Oh my gosh,
89 cents for a sliver of onion.
89 cents doesn't change anything with your life. Nothing. It should have just went.
It's the point, though. It's not the money. It's not the money.
Your brain.
It is not the money. It's the point.
So it's the point.
Yes.
Guard grabbed Juwan.
Yes,
should not have grabbed him.
You're right. I didn't say he should have.
No, that is crazy.
Nice job not escalating the cheese situation.
It is crazy. I mean, you hear all about all the businesses, shortages, lumber, and all this other stuff.
Right.
89 cents for a slice of onion. Would I have brought it up? I don't know, but I totally understand you bringing it up because that seems kind of crazy.
That comes with age. I did not cause a scene. I did not bitch about it. I
Props
just
to
said,
you, man.
Is this really true? 89 cents for this onion? That's all.
One thing I will say to Jared's point, like you even saying that is kind of a little bit of a snarky because, like, do you think it was on the menu and it wasn't supposed to be on the menu?
Wait a minute. Let me just back up for 1 second. In all my life, I have never gone to a restaurant and you order a burger with everything. They'll charge you for the cheese, but they won't charge you for the lettuce and tomato and pickle. Come on.
Or onion.
Right, or onion.
Maybe avocado. Avocado nowadays you have to pay extra for.
All right. This is a first.
Hey, to bring it full circle, the one positive about the Juwan thing, I do think it's going to resonate with the players currently on this team and with potential future recruits. I think high school kids see that and say, man, I love this guy. He will go to war with me. And I just hope that that's what the overlasting result of this is, hey, maybe it brings in a few more recruits.
Well, before we wrap this part of it, guys, and Matt, I know you want to comment. Do we have any concerns at all about Juwan moving forward?
I don't necessarily, because I think this is who he's always been. I mean, do you want your coach losing his cool like that? No. But like, I'm not trying to compare this to anything Izzo's done, because as far as we know, Izzo hasn't taken a swipe at another coach or something. But people see how Izzo treats his players, how he's just riding the officials for a whole game, a whole timeout, just yelling at the officials through the whole game, just riding the officials in their ear. And they see that as like tough love coaching. And, oh, he's just an old school coach. He rides his players, he gets the best out of them. Like, why is the narrative different? Why can you act the way Izzo does? And, it's okay. It's just old school coaching. But, you act the way Juwan does, taking a swing at a coach is, takes it to another level. But, that scene is like losing your cool. Why is it that way?
Well, that's the difference. He took a swing. Izzo
That's
hasn't
what,
punched anybody.
Right. I just wish he wouldn't have done. If a perfect world, he should have just reamed that entire Wisconsin like staff for a solid 2 minutes. That's what he should. That's what I wish he would have done. And the cameras could have just been there picking up exactly what he said. But yeah, and it wasn't even. I wouldn't even call it necessarily a swing. I don't know if it was a push, face palm, but people calling it a punch. It just flat out wasn't a punch. It wasn't a punch. If he had done that to me, it wouldn't have really injured me. Probably wouldn't have left a mark. So it's not a punch.
I'm calling it a punch. He ended up with an open hand, but it was a punch, man. Watching it live, watching it full speed, he had intent of hitting him right in the face. Yeah, just opened up that hand at the last second.
I think, again, Ted, you know all about this. I think dad instincts came out in him. Yeah. He saw that assistant coach come in and start putting his hands on his players. He was already heated. He was already right here. Saw that assistant coach put his hands on his players, and that boiled him over. He took a swing. Now, like, the swing at the assistant coach, no. But I guess my point with the Izzo thing is, like, we've seen video of him grabbing Gabe Brown. Gabe Brown's trying to walk away, and he's, like, pulling Gabe Brown back. We've seen him in the face of his other players. And people, like, my point is, like, people see that as, like I said, tough love, coaching, old school. So it's just weird that, like, the narrative is different.
Let me ask you guys something. We should give a little bit to Michigan State too. They lost Illinois, nice little comeback, not quite enough at home. Tyson Walker, man, went wild with 24 of his 26 in the second half. But back to Izzo, you had the Bobby Knight style, which is similar to Izzo, and you had players that went through the program. Probably the majority of them like Bobby Knight, but there was a good handful that after their careers were done, came out and said he was just he was nasty to play for, he was unfair, this and that. You never hear that. I don't know of anybody that has said that about Tom Izzo. Yeah, they've gone through the system. They probably have had their issues during the games, during a season, but I think probably to a man, everybody that's gone through a Michigan State program the entire time Izzo's been there, love the guy. Disagree or agree?
I mean, I don't know everyone's opinion who played for him.
But have you heard of any negative?
No. You haven't. And we're not saying. I don't think Matt said that Izzo isn't a good coach. Oh, it is a little. It's like I said at the start. Is why have we gotten so soft? And Ted, didn't you retweeted that video of Calipari and Chaney from the '90s? You loved it.
Probably loved Did I say I loved it? I just retweeted it because it was relevant.
Well, I think that makes college basketball, man, we talk about how this college basketball season has sucked and there's nothing that's bringing us in. This team's not very good. I tell you what, Juwan mixing it up on the sidelines has been the biggest moment of this college basketball season so far. It's the one that we've cared the most about. And I think that's the majority of people, not even just Michigan fans. It's give us something to cheer about.
I think we all agree with that point. He went over the line, though, is my point. You cannot, whether it's a slap, whether it's a punch, he was 100% out of line, and that's why he's going to get the majority of the punishment.
Yeah, and he deserves, and I think he would agree, he deserves the majority of the punishment for taking the swing. My larger point is I'm very curious to see what the Big Ten or Wisconsin, NCAA, whatever, what they do to the Wisconsin coaches and players, because if they just basically get a little slap on the wrist, one game, maybe 2 games, I think you're just setting like a dangerous bar that you're like, it's so cool. It's okay if you come in and touch other players. If you come in and grab other coaches, that's okay.
Well, wait a minute.
Take a swing, that's not.
Well, yeah, but don't you think, and there's a very good chance, we've all talked about it, that Juwan's going to get the rest of the season, whether it be by the Big Ten, whether it be a combination Big Ten and Michigan.
Yeah.
There is no way that guard's going to get any more than a game or two, and shouldn't probably get any more than a game or two.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
he probably won't. Yeah, he probably won't.
And should he?
No, I don't
Yeah,
really
I don't
think
know.
so.
No.
Maybe the assistant. It just sucks.
Maybe.
There's no way to really prove what was said, what happened. So, and like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if that assistant really didn't say anything bad that bad at all. I mean, we've seen Juwan freak out over a guy saying take down the banners. So
Right.
Yeah.
he's got a bad track record. So I'm not gonna stick my neck out, not knowing what that assistant coach said, knowing that it could have been something as dumb as that really set him off.
Yeah, I mean, the mics were on because the mics picked up Juwan saying "Don't effing touch me." So I'll be curious if the rest comes out. Back to your Izzo point. The one thing I'll say, and this might be, I respect Izzo as one of the greatest coaches in college basketball. Obviously, I don't like him very much as Michigan State's coach. I think I think that the Spartan Nation is a little cult-like in the sense that I think former players don't want to be the first one to come out and say, I didn't like the way that Izzo, his style of coaching. I think there's like a little side to like, they can't come out and do that because you don't want to be the first player to come out and say, yeah, Izzo went a little too hard on us. And I think there's a side to it like that. Quick story. I work with a dude who's from Swartz Creek. He's a Michigan State alum. And when he was there during the Draymond years, and he was a videotape coordinator for the basketball team for 2 or 3 years. So he was at every practice, traveled with the team, even went to Maui when they went and played in Maui. He was on the road with them all the time around Izzo, gets invited back to like the alumni, the basketball, that whole putt thing they do with the basketball team. So he knows what's going on. He's told me multiple times that what we see on TV barely scratches the surface with how Izzo acts during practice. Like we were watching, like this is like a few, like last season, one of the times that, Izzo was going nuts. We were watching the game at work and I started just shaking my head and be like saying whatever the hell I was saying about Izzo. And he was like, dude, you have no idea. That right there is nothing compared to what he does in practice. Who knows what he's alluding to, but for the people who just say like, all the players love him. Look how they come back. I think it's just also partly they don't want to be the ones that come out and say, yeah, Izzo's kind of a dick. I mean, look at how he treats us. Michigan State fans put this dude up on a pedestal to the point where like he can literally degrade people and be in the ref's face. And they're just like, that's Izzo. That's Izzo. It's kind of odd to me, but I'll get off
coach my team anytime.
I'll say I'm glad that Izzo, he's the last of a dying breed, and with cancel culture and everything that's coming around, I'm glad that there is still coaches like that. I don't see, like I said, he's not doing it to opposing players. He's not laying his hands on players. For the most part, we don't seem to see much negative about Tom Izzo from former players. If they're not mad at it, why should I? So that's the way I look at it. Now, there probably is a ton, like I said, there probably is a lot of players that don't like Izzo, but that's probably with any coach. I mean, I bet you behind closed doors, Juwan's probably a little bit of a lunatic sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just the same thing with the majority coaches. Hey, did you play a lot under this coach? Did you have a good, did you succeed as an individual player? You probably like the coach. And if he benched you and you hardly played, you probably hate him. I think that's the majority of how it goes for a lot of players.
That's the nature of the game, isn't it? Yeah.
You
know what, boys? This is a pretty good discussion we had here. We need Juwan to do stuff like this more often. Gives us good fodder for our podcast.
Yeah.
Quick, before we move on. So, now moving past this, there is still a season. Let's just say he's suspended for the rest of the year or fired. So basically he's not on the sidelines. This either goes one of two ways. Either it buries Michigan and they end up losing, don't even make the tournament. This year is forgotten. Or it kind of lights a little fire. Maybe Phil Martelli takes over as the interim coach and they make a little run towards the tournament. Like, which way do you guys think it's going to go? Because we've said before, this team does have talent. So if this is something that can kind of spark them, maybe they make a little run to the tournament. I don't know.
I think I just think there's going to be some suspensions coming for Diabate, Williams, who knows who else. And if that wasn't the case, I would say, hey, maybe this team will rally around this for a few games, maybe beat Michigan State. I will say I'm excited to see the Martelli experience, see if he's got anything left in the tank. It would be magical if he somehow made a run. I don't see it. This team's not good. But hey, somehow, some way, he's got a little bit of magic left in the tank. Maybe they can make it to the Sweet 16 under him. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, if they weren't losing players, I'd kind of go along with that too, because it'd be kind of cool. It'd kind of be like the Steve Fisher situation all over
Right.
again, with Martelli coming in, righting the ship. And let's face it, there's been something wrong with this team all season long.
Yeah.
I think they have definitely underachieved. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
Whether it be coaching, whether it be the players, I don't know. But if they ever were going to turn things around, it'd be kind of cool to see right now.
Yeah,
So,
because like we were talking before, they've got a few games at home, so that helps. They can play
tough
at home
schedule,
for a
though.
few games. They've got Michigan State, so if you really want to make a statement, beat Michigan State, and make a little noise in the tournament, or lose a bunch of games and don't even make the tournament and move on. So
we want to see them play Wisconsin again in the tournament, don't we?
that'd be fun. That would be
Can't
fun.
wait.
Yeah, I hate Wisconsin. I hate Wisconsin now. I never really liked them, but I hate Greg Gard. I hope that Juwan does come back, and I hope that he does remember this, and I hope that he runs them off the floor within the next couple of years. We can only hope.
We can only hope. All right, fellas, good discussion. Like I said, we'll close the podcast with a little entertainment right after this message.